Welcome to another week of the Tavern. I'm Subtle. He's Hando. How are you doing, Hando? What have you been up to? And
I'm
wow, this
Hando.
week?
I'm Hando. He's subtle. I've been doing the same as everyone else in Cataclysm. I've been digging. In SOD, I haven't been playing too much. Uh, Outside of the game, I've been working my butt off. And trying to edit videos and get into that. And you make it look easy, my friend.
Yeah,
How about you?
I think you were saying like a week or two ago, you were trying to have your first one out. How's that
Yeah, and
coming along?
it is slowly going because I am very meticulous. I want to make sure that it's good. And not just like a goblin talking to the screen,
Yeah, fair enough.
with the animations like, "Hey, friends." I just want to make it pretty good. So I've been working on that. It's probably going to take a little longer than I expected, especially since I decided to create a script for it, and then sure enough, they're like, "Oh, let's change transmog where you can have Thunder Furies and use them on your level 10s and whatever, what have you, So what about you though? That's been me.
Yeah, mainly this week I was doing like the beta raid testing. Um did we got pretty much everything down on Heroic 25. The only one we didn't get down was Alakir. We just need like one more pull and we would have had it, but we'll get that on live. No problem. We'll get it done. But the raids are really fun. I'm super looking forward to it. It's just one of those tiers I think is gonna be fun like the whole way through. I never usually get bored of like raid tiers, but this one especially seems like it'll hold up. It'll be good kind of the whole way. And difficulty level seems solid. Uh, People were concerned about that because like Blizzard said it was like post nerf raids and stuff, but it turns out it's really just kind of the early like fixes to the bosses. It's not actually like the post nerf like huge Firelands nerfs. So that's definitely good to see because like the difficulty level is for sure maintained. It's not just like stuff most guilds will just like walk through without any issue.
Well, that's good.
But
Is there any glaring bugs that you found, like the Halion ads?
uh yeah, so well, yeah, there's definitely some bugs. There's like Alakir. So once you kill Conclave of Wind, these little like cyclone things spawn. You click them, you get thrown over to Alakir's platform. But sometimes they throw you the wrong direction. They don't throw you to Alakir's platform, they just throw you to some random place. And then when you when you kind of get thrown into the clouds or whatever, then it like sends you back. And so you have to like keep going back, trying again, but eventually you'll get over there.
Well, that's what they meant when they said some changes, right?
Yeah, yeah, just yeah, they're just adding like annoying mechanics to everything. Like in
That's the
Bastion,
mythic.
yeah, in Bastion, they'll probably add. So there's like teleports you take, like once you kill some bosses, teleport to like, get further into the raid and not have to do as long of a run back. So I'm fully expecting those to like get changed. So they just teleport you to the wrong place and like they just teleport you into like Sinestro's lava or something.
Perfect.
But
I
yeah,
remember someone in the chat the other day was talking about how Sinestro may have a time limit, or they were mocking
yeah, like
Sinestro.
Algalon.
Yeah, yeah, and then you saying she would submerge back into the lava, and the visual of that just makes me laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody wants that again. Remember the stress of Algalon,
Oh
like
yeah,
the 1 hour.
oh yeah.
I mean, especially as a raid leader, like you remember it. It's like you get down to like 10 minutes left, and you're like, oh my god, did we really
Yeah,
just like waste an hour here? We're not even gonna kill this boss this week.
not only that, then you have to like deal with the dilemma of, hey, do you want to do this at the beginning of the raid? Do you want to do this at the end of the raid? If you do it at the beginning of the raid and then you don't kill it, it kills the morale for the rest of the raid. Like I don't know, it's like a lose lose situation because if you do it at the last end of the raid. You know, maybe people are tired or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, the morale drop, it was similar to like world buffs and like classic where like you lose the whole raid's world buffs on like some pull and then everybody's just down for the rest of the raid. It felt just like that when you like failed to kill Algalon and then you had to do, you know, the rest of Old War after that. It was
One of my
not a fun time.
one of my shining moments. Speaking of one of my shining moments, when I merged with a guild in Classic, they didn't realize I had a second warrior. So one of my main warrior had died on Sartura, you know, and lost all my world buffs. And I'm like, it's fine. I have my other one parked right outside. And they were like, what? Like full world buff, same gear, everything ready to go. So
Yeah, I was doing that too.
unfortunately, you can't do that with Algalon.
Yeah, I did
But
that toward the end of Classic. I had like my Rogue and my Warrior, and I would just kind of rotate between the two. And so I just always had like a world buff character ready to go.
yeah, that was like the way around playing the characters. The funny thing was figuring out which one had the world buffs and which one didn't, and you'd log in and be like, "Wait, wrong tune. Can't play that
Yeah,
one for 3 days. I can only play this one."
yeah. Oh, yeah. It was all about Nova world buffs. You had to, you know, check on there, see which characters had which buffs and everything. All the times on there.
Yeah. Oh, world buffs.
All right.
I know
Well,
you weren't a big fan, but all
not a
right, here we
fan at
go.
all. Not a fan at all. Yeah, let's get into the listener questions though. So first one we got, it's from Czar this week. How much value will healing receive to increase modifiers either through talents or abilities provided in Cataclysm compared to Wrath? They were largely ignored in Wrath or acutely glyphed out of, but they seem to be a lot more available and pushed upon us in Cata. So in Cata, like the heals don't heal you for like as much of a percent of your health. So like they're less likely to overheal. Like Wrath was like way more spammy. So like a lot of heals were just overhealing you anyway. So like getting a, you know, percent healing increase on an overheal on something that was already gonna be like a 50% plus overheal, it just like wasn't super enticing. In Kata though, like you've got generally you have like a good amount of time, definitely compared to Wrath, you have like a good amount of time to like get healed up and stuff. Like a good example would be like, so Nefarian, I think his unmitigated like melee swings are after debuff, I think it's like 150 to 160k, which is like similar to like Syndragosa. I think she had about the same, but now we have, you know, like 3 times more HP. So that just kind of puts in perspective, like you have a bit more time to like react to things. And like TK specifically, you know, does a lot of healing on its own. So if you can get percent increases on your own healing, that's pretty great. But yeah, overall, the healing received modifiers, definitely nice. I have personally, before I was a little higher on the like the vamp blood glyph, that makes your vamp blood give you like 15% more healing. After doing the phase 1 raids, I'm not really glyphing that anymore. When I get geared, I'll probably glyph it again. But for now, at least in like pre-bis gear, when you're like doing these heroic raids, I found that the 15% health increase was actually pretty good. Like for like prog, but I think I will be glyphing like vamp blood once I get more geared and I don't really need that HP bump. Next question from Uther Dread. Following on from the question on episode 8 about the bullion currency that is in retail, do you think allowing previous tier gear that drops in dungeons, assuming it works like it did in Wrath, Titan Rune dungeons, being account bound instead of character bound? This would allow people to gear alts quickly and save tier pieces going to waste in 5-man, as there's no guarantee you have that class. Any thoughts on this one, Hannah?
Um, I like it, but I think it might be too powerful. You know what I mean? Like you want to curve it in a way that people want to play the game more from a developer standpoint. But from a player standpoint, it sounds awesome, right? I mean, make everything warband bound or whatever the heck they called it right before. That would be amazing. I think it would help keep people interested in the game as a whole. Playing new classes and stuff. I know we have some friends that are playing some new classes come Cataclysm, so I think that would make it more interesting in that way. But I think having it all account bound might make people play less total, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it's a really good move. Like it's so easy to like run these 5 mans anyway. Like I don't really see it as like much of a hurdle, you know? Like if some tier drops that nobody can use, I don't think it's really a big deal. Um and yeah, it'll I don't know. I guess it would kind of shift things to where like more geared players were queuing more in RDF, because like you would try to like farm the tier on a geared character, then send it to a less geared character. So I don't know, maybe that'd be helpful, but I don't think it's really like worthwhile for them to do personally.
Yeah, I don't know about you too, but like playing the class more, like getting those reps in too, I think is also valuable just
That's
as much as the
huge.
gear, if not more so.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point too. Like that, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems with like boosted characters is like somebody boosts a character they've like a class they've never played before. They suddenly have like 80 abilities and they have no clue how to play this class. Like is just overwhelming. Like you really need the like slow progression where it's like as you level, you're getting like one ability at a time. You get to, slowly add in new abilities like to your repertoire like as you go, and that way you just kind of learn them as you go. When you get just a million things at once, it's harder. For me it is, at least. I don't know, maybe some people can do that better, but I think it's pretty important to kind of slow things down if it's like a class you haven't played before and get some reps on it.
I'm I if I boost a character, I do it in the same way as like leveling, right? Where you like find out where everything belongs as far as like keybinds and stuff and like where the similarities are in like certain classes. Where you're like, oh, wait, this is the use case for this ability. I'll put it here. I didn't even have it on my bars or a keybind before. I had no idea what this did. So you kind of just like have to find it out. So I think that part of it would definitely be detrimental, right? To not have their people like have people play their alts and just play those geared characters.
Yeah,
But I also like that you can do everything on one character and just make your alts stronger too. So I don't know.
that
I
is
don't know
one of
how to,
the
I don't know
big
how to
selling
feel about it.
points for
Yeah,
like the war within like war bands and everything. Just like being able to do a lot of stuff on one character.
yeah. I think
So
it feels a little bit different in retail though because it's like such
mhm.
a vast
There's
thing, and the
just yeah,
leveling process
way
is so
more
quick
stuff.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Last one is from Great Gray. I know you mainly tested 25-man heroics, but from watching streams, it looked like 10-man heroics were tuned all over the place, with a few of the encounters looking harder than 25-man counterparts. On top of the perceived higher difficulty, there is less of a loot reward to run them. Do you think 10-man balance slash reward should be reevaluated for tier 11, or does the logistical ease make up for it? To me, like, I think it's good where it is right now. Like there should be some incentive to run 25 man. Otherwise, why would anybody run it if like you got, the same amount of loot and um the fights were easier on 10 man. So I think it's in a good spot right now, but my opinion may change because I've watched very little of people doing 10 man and I haven't done any myself, at least on beta. Did a little bit on P server, but on P server, it seemed like 10 man was easier because like we had 25% dampening there instead of 15%. And it felt about the same difficulty with that. So I imagine with, the same dampening or no dampening, the 10 man would have felt way easier. But yeah, I think it's in a good spot right now. 25 man definitely should have like some incentive to do it.
How do you feel the upper echelon of player will compete in this tier? Will it be 25 mans or 10 mans?
It'll definitely be 25 man. The highest raid size is always just like the go to, like, you know, considered like kind of the highest tier of rating. But I mean, that said, I'm super excited to do a bunch of 10 man myself too. 25 man is gonna be the main thing I'm doing, but I will be doing lots of 10 man. I do love just how easy it is to like put together. It's
Yeah,
so much easier to just get 9 other people than like wrangle 24.
yeah, the logistical ease portion of this question definitely makes me happy because uh, getting 10 people is so much easier than 25. Just like getting 25 is so much easier than 40. In those 40 man raids back in Classic, how many of those people were like just doing nothing during trash or whatever, right? Like it feels like half of them sometimes.
Yeah,
So
lots of AFKing because like
yeah,
your presence isn't really as like felt in like a 40 man. So like you can just AFK like anytime and like people won't really notice.
yeah. I think from my point of view, I think 25 is good for GDKP standpoint. And I think 10 mans will probably be a little bit more fun and competitive and like as far as like parses and stuff go, because you're you know dealing with tighter knit groups. So, but like I watched both your raids and some of the 10 man stuff, and I think the 10 man's definitely looked a little bit more difficult, but it didn't look like as many of the competitive people were doing them as much as the 25s, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying that there wasn't
Yeah.
skilled people doing 10 mans. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the majority of them were doing that. Like when we watched WoW Plunderstorm, it said Plunderstorm, where 90% of the player base was playing Plunderstorm, and the other 10% was playing like the other versions of WoW. It's kind of like that. But I
Yeah.
think I think I think it's good the way, like, I'm gonna agree with you, right? 25 mans need to have some sort of incentive, so I think this is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Think it is good how it is, but I don't know. My opinion may change later. Let's get into the news. And if you guys want to submit any questions for the podcast, you can do that in my Discord in the Submit Podcast Questions channel or at our Gmail
Weeks
address,
End
which I don't
Tavern.
know if it's ever gotten any questions.
It has not. It has not. But you know what? I'm waiting one day. It will one day. Weeks End Tavern at Gmail.
That's it. Yeah. If you want to submit a question there, you can be the first.
You can be the first one, yeah, and we'll give you a double shout out.
Get a little founder's badge.
Oh, is it like the pin that you get for the collector's edition?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, we got to get on this.
All right, so into the news. We're gonna start off with Sod and talk a little mop, and then of course talking lots of Cata because it's coming out. At the time of this podcast, it's coming out in like 15 hours, I think, 14 hours, 13 hours. We're close.
Oh,
We're close.
that's here.
That's here. That's
Hello,
here. It's like
Cataclysm.
it's
Hello,
like half a day away.
it's happening right now.
By the time they listen to this, it might actually be happening right now.
That's true. They might be listening right before the launch.
They might be
So
listening
hello.
while it has launched and they're just leveling. They're playing through cat already.
Well, there it is.
They're in the future.
I hope
Um
your ship doesn't crash in Vashir, listener.
so we're gonna start off with some SOD here. The big news was that SOD phase 4 is delayed. SOD phase 3 is gonna be extended for quite a while, it sounds like. They said phase 3 is going to last several weeks longer than the longest sod phase so far, which probably puts phase 4 release sometime in July. So quite a ways to go there. Um, I mean, the they just seem to be like stretched too thin right now. Like we saw how bad the Cata pre-patch launch was. So I mean, this is definitely a good thing. Like anybody who plays sod, like you want this for sure. Like maybe you think you don't, but like the way this would release, if they release this in like a few weeks, it would just be trash. Like you do not want a rushed phase like what we got with the Cata pre-patch. So you might have to wait a little bit longer, but it'll be more polished. It'll be probably a lot more fun when it comes out. Um, any thoughts on that, Hando? Were you kind of bummed by this? I know you've been playing Sud.
No, I'm glad it's delayed. To be honest, I mean, I'd rather just not play it and have a more polished product. That's that's my thinking, right? Like I'd rather just have it take a little bit longer and play the game correctly. Less
Yep,
bugs, actual testing and stuff coming out, which is nice.
absolutely. Yeah. So PTR for phase 4 as well. They haven't been doing PTRs for Sod so far, but I mean, with how phase 3 kind of rolled out, it seemed like this was probably something that needed to happen. Like, like basically throughout Sod, they've essentially been like PTRing like the first like 4 or 6 weeks of each phase, like in terms of like class tuning and stuff like that. So this way they'll actually just be able to get that stuff done before it launches, and I think I think it'll be a much better experience. Like delaying the phase a little bit and having some testing going into the phase. So it should, if you like Sod, it should be a good time for you.
Yeah, should be able to have some nice balances and stuff instead of just like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah. They are going to be doing limited raid testing, which, I mean, from what they say, MC and Ani are going to be coming out. I mean, I think that was kind of expected. Phase 1, or well, yeah, at that point, I guess it's phase 4, but the OG like phase 1 raids.
Phase one,
Um,
phase four.
yep, phase 1, phase 4, exactly. So MC and Ani are coming out, but they also said a few weeks later BWL would be coming out. That seems like crazy fast. Like especially because they said they're like redoing a lot of the tier sets and everything. They're putting a lot of time into that, and like it just kind of feels weird that like just like maybe 3 weeks after MC and Ani come out, BWL is gonna come out, and you're gonna just replace all that new tier gear.
I'm only upset by this news. I think it'll be fine because it's probably going to be pretty insane. And then it gets you to play all the raids in one, which you were doing basically at the end of the, every tier anyway. Like you were going back into Molten Core while you're in BWL, so that's
Hmm.
whatever for me. But I'm kind of upset that like we haven't heard any news on like the Karazhan crypts or anything, or Scarlet Monastery turning into a raid and stuff, even though it was like teased at BlizzCon. Not necessarily that it was teased that it had to be a raid, right? But I would have hoped there would have been more changes to some of these things, or seen them, and maybe had like a new raid added rather than just like rehashing an old raid. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, I'm interested to see what they can do with it. I think a few weeks is a very limited amount of time, but like I said, right, you were farming like onslaught girdles while you're in Naxxramas, so
Yeah,
put it
just
all put it
as
all out at once. Give it the mop remix treatment.
yeah, as long as they can just like maintain that kind of thing, because like with the loot revamp, like there is a possibility that something like Onslaught Girdle might not matter anymore. With like how
Yeah,
they change like stats on loot. So hopefully they'll keep that in mind, because that was kind of one of the core parts of Classic, is that every raid was always relevant for like a few items. So hopefully they're keeping that in mind with their loot rebalancing.
They've definitely been trying to add niche items and then like they curb them the next patch, which is so weird. Like they were like, "Oh, let's, revamp the crowd pummeler," but then give druids catnip. So you still have the you still have the ability, but you don't have the item anymore. So it's like it's just weird.
Yeah. And speaking of loot changes, they are also going to be buffing some of the sunken temple loot. This is one of the complaints I've seen the most is that sunken temple loot just doesn't feel very good to get because it's just like a small step up from other things people already have. So this sounds like it should make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, and it feels like in the first raid too in BFD there was a lot of pieces that were actually used. In Sunken Temple, it feels like there's very niche items used. So like there is a lot of throwaway DE or whatever in this phase. So I think this is a good change. Hopefully they don't power creep them too much that you're like running it over and over again instead of running like MC or Oni, right? But I don't imagine
Mhm.
they will. But there is some BIS pieces from Nomergon still this phase for some people, so
Oh, okay.
who knows?
All right. Let's just move on to Mop Remix now. So this launched this week. I've only gotten to play it a little bit, but it's been really fun what I have played of it. There's like this cloak they came up with, the like bind on account cloak that just gets permanent like stat upgrades. Is like one of the best mechanics ever. Like you everything you do, you're just randomly seeing like +2 stam, +1% XP, whatever. Like the dopamine just like is nonstop. Like every time you see that, you just get excited. Like, and it's just constant. Like you kill some random mob, you might get a permanent 2 stamina to your cloak. You loot, some random like chest or item or something, you get like permanent stats. It is pretty awesome. Um the event is going to be ending August 19th. So you have like 3 months to do this. I'll definitely be taking advantage of like the later part of this cuz pretty busy with Cata right now, but yeah, you got plenty of time, and most likely that's about when War Within is going to be coming out cuz I mean, presumably this ends right as like War Within launches, so can probably expect War Within at the end of August. That's sort of the time frame people have been thinking anyway. The normal raid bosses were changed to, or I guess were found to be giving 12% uh, permanent XP to your cloak. So if you, as you're leveling, you should definitely kill some normal raid bosses. You're gonna get like tons of extra XP on your cloak that will allow you to level even quicker. And the LFR raids were apparently not giving too much, so they got buffed. They'll now give XP on your cloak as well. And the big news that everybody was talking about in regards to MOP was the frog farm. So I don't know if you heard about this, Hando. Did you hear about this
Oh,
at all?
yeah, I did. A frog was an OG thing in MOP too. This was a very big thing in the original, so I'm very aware.
Yeah, so basically it was a hyper spawn where you just kill lots of frogs and they drop tons of loot you needed. And I believe you could trade one of the items in to get like a box that could have like permanent stat increases in it, or you could trade it in for like a random gem, stuff like that. So people were basically just farming this like crazy, getting insane stats on their cloak, getting maxed out gems and everything, getting really, really OP. And um like, I mean, the stats were ridiculous. Like, people had 71,000 stamina on their cloak. Like 7,000 of every other stat. Like, the HP values were insane.
So it's not a stat squish, but a stat expand,
Yeah,
right?
wherever the
They were
opposite
like,
of a stat squish is, that is all
That's what
all
they
the
wanted.
all those stat squishes they've done over the years were just being stored in these cloaks, and now they're all coming back. So, like I was watching some of the Echo guys earlier, and Mirez, their tank, he had I think 8 million HP while they were doing Siege of Orgrimmar. They were doing Mythic Siege of Orgrimmar. The bosses had billions of HP. Like I can't remember the exact amount. I think Garrosh might have had like 5 billion HP, something like that. But obviously, you'd like take his HP down like multiple times like throughout the fight, so he actually has like way more than that. But yeah, they Echo got the world first clear of Mythic Siege. Grats to them, and man, watching like some of the damage they were doing was just insane, and like their HP. They also have just like tons of leech, so they all just self heal for like a lot. And man, it like apparently the whole thing with this system is like it's just infinite scaling. So eventually you get to like solo these raids, I guess. And I mean, that sounds kind of awesome. I mean, like this is just kind of like a silly like event. So I think this is like totally fine for this sort of event. I don't think it needs to, be balanced or anything. But
Yeah, just let it go. They have some advertising like on the Battle.net app, I think too, and it's like overpowered, maybe. Fun, definitely.
yeah,
I think that
I
sums it
saw
up
that.
perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could have played this more. I was having a blast on it, but I mean, we got Cata coming up, and I got to dig.
There's just
But
too much to do. There's just too much. There's as much to do in WoW as there is news for it, right? That's why we have to read all this news for you guys because there's a ton of it. You can do anything in WoW right now.
there's
It's
so
crazy,
much. The possibilities are endless.
endless.
All
You
right,
could dig endlessly, or you can play WoW endlessly.
true,
It's a vicious cycle.
true. So that was Moth. People have been loving it. Cool event. Hope they do more stuff like this. We're moving on though to the main event, Cataclysm. It's coming out. By the time you listen to this, it may already be out. Cataclysm Classic. It
If you're
is
listening to this now, while it's launched, it's out now. Hit play.
yes. It's coming out May 20th at 3 p.m. Pacific time, which is only about 13 hours away. But we got tons of news this week. Some of the we were talking last week too. So there were like two major things that we needed to wait and see kind of what happened with them. One of those was Valor. So with Valor, Blizzard gave us some info. The weekly Valor cap is increased to 1600 per week. The random Cata heroics are going to give 240 Valor per run. So you're going to be able to cap purely through heroics. You don't have to do any raids to cap. I'm not like, I think that's kind of bad. Like, I think to get full Valor cap, you should have to do raids. It's weird to me that you like can do all of it through heroics, but whatever. Um, but they also are not going to award Valor until the first weekly reset. So there's no need to like completely rush day one, get max level so you can like get 7 heroic dungeons done and cap Valor. That is not necessary. You won't be able to start earning Valor until Tuesday if you're NA. I think it's Wednesday for EU. So no major rush there. Take your time. Get to 85, then you can start pounding out all those heroics.
Yeah, it made me decide to actually not take a day off of work. So there it is. I'm pretty new to my job too, so it would have been potentially pretty detrimental. So I'm
Mhm.
glad for this change, and I hope other people are too. I'm sure they are. Actually, I know. I don't even need
Mhm.
to hope. I'm sure they are happy for this, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a good move. It was, it was really, really incentivizing people to just go really, really hard day one, and probably not good for most people to feel like they
Yay.
have to do that.
Yay for us casual Andes. Yay.
These should mention though, this does change like some of the pre-biz gearing. So like specifically for like tanks, blood decay, we'll say in particular. Like you'll now be able to get one of those like 2200 pieces. So blood decays are gonna want the DPS DK tier legs. They're mastery hit legs. Those are what we're gonna want. Legs are like one of our weakest prebis pieces. And getting like a perfectly statted 359 epic is gonna be huge going into first raid. So this valor cap change does have a decent impact going into week one of raids. You're gonna be able to, you could even get 2 items if you want. So like what I'll be doing just to like fully min max it going into the first raid, I'm gonna get the relic as well. So I'm getting the pants and the relic, but depending on your like class and spec, there are probably some different pieces you want, but you'll be able to get 3200 valor before the first raid. So you're gonna have some options there on what you can get. So definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, changes the prebis. They're
Big
not just remixing
Prebis
Mop, but they're
changes.
also remixing prebis Cata.
Cata remix.
Cata remix. And then what was the other thing that we spoke about? Was it the Wrath Dungeon XP?
Yeah, yeah. So the Wrath Dungeon XP. Who knows what they might do in the next like 13 hours, but when I last checked a few hours ago, Wrath dungeons were still giving full XP. So I'm expecting the majority of players are going to choose to do a Halls of Lightning solo up to level 82, then go into Deep Home. That seems to be the most sensible thing to do. At the time of this podcast, it has not been nerfed. So maybe it will get nerfed, but from what we know right now, it is not nerfed.
We promised to tell you, and we told you. The other thing that we weren't sure about is if this Pterodax hatchling was ever going to be added to archaeology. This was huge news. But guess
Yeah.
what? You can have your own little pterodactyl now.
So it was at like 525 archaeology. They just let us get it a little bit early because it was like it was really annoying because like pretty much everybody was like finished on fossil. Well, not everybody. Some people don't have the shield, but a lot of people were finished on fossil. They just needed this one stupid pet to be done with fossil and then, get more spawns on other things. And it was just sitting there mocking all of us. And finally, we can get rid of it. It's like a really high drop chance. Like once they actually added it to 450, pretty much everybody was getting it in the first few solves. So it's nice. Now I've got the fossil just completely done. I've been getting troll solves like crazy. Like I'm just getting nonstop like quads and STV and just chaining more STV spawns off that. It's been nice, but it hasn't helped me at all because I still don't have Zenrock, but it allows me to dream.
Well, I'm going to give you a little tip here, a little pro tip. If you make an evoker and you go and do archaeology and do the troll solves, you'll get it 100% of the chance, 100% chance first solve.
Oh
That's just
wow.
how it works. Yeah, it's just like that mop bug where
Yeah.
everyone was getting the mount or
Yeah, with
whatever.
the heavenly cloud serpent.
Yeah, that's it. So just make everyone out there, if you're digging, just stop, make an evoker real quick, and just get on the train. And if you can't make one, maybe just update the client and make sure it's working right. I got mine right away. Right away. Actually, it's Cope. I'm also in the same boat as you. Nose and rocks for either of us.
Yep. So we also got a bunch of other news clarifications, whatever. Chaos orbs are going to be bind on pickup. So these are dungeon drops, essentially frozen orbs. They're used for lots of crafting things. These are going to be bind on pickup though. You won't be able to buy them on the auction house, sell them on the auction house. So any of these you need, you'll need to actually get them in the dungeon yourself. The
I
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that.
Yeah,
I enjoy
I
that.
think it's good.
And then like usually the next patch they make them BOE or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
sure like 4.1 they'll probably make them BOE with
yeah, exactly.
ZAZG.
But I think this is good. It kind of like forces you to like play that character rather than the other. So it's like opposite of what we were talking about with the account bound stuff and the bullions or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean a lot of this stuff's been used to make like 359 items, so I think it's good that you actually gotta like do the heroics yourself to craft those.
yeah, for sure. And then it makes them worth more, right? So then the profession feels better. Also,
Yeah.
like to have rather than just have like the best of the best, you can have something that makes a little bit of money or whatever it is.
And we also found out, we already kind of knew this. I mean, this is what they did in Wrath, but Barrett and Hold, the raid in Tolbrod, will be releasing June 4th. So that'll be coming out the Tuesday after the raid's release. This is what they did with VOA all of Wrath. So this was fully expected, but now we have confirmation that's when it's happening. And there is same deal as VOA. You'll have a chance to get some tier pieces, but it will only ever drop PvP loot that nobody needs. That is the
Hmm.
VOA way.
It's been that way since classic, with the druid gear and the warlock gear. You don't
Yeah,
have enough
yeah,
of
the
them, and they
Storm
just
Rage.
like to, they just like to drop it a lot. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Storm Rage in the Scenarius or whatever Scenarian set,
Yep.
and
And
so that's coming June 4th. So that's the second lockout. It's the second or
um,
the third week, I guess.
technically the third, yeah, because we have the the first
The bye
reset is
week,
like literally less than 24 hours after Cata launches, but
right? Right. And then the Dark Moon Fair comes on May 26th, and that's the new fair, right? Like where there's an actual island, like the Dark Moon Island.
yeah. Yeah, so normally the Dark Moon Fair wouldn't come at this time, but they kind of moved it around so it would be their pre-raid. Because a lot of people want Dark Moon Fair cards for like their pre-raid bits. So they just moved around the timing so people would be able to get those, I guess, before the first raid. So if
Wait,
you're
have they
one of
ever
those
done this
people,
before?
um, they have, yeah. Like oh man, I'm trying to think of when. Like in Sod they just like ramped up how often like DMF comes, right? It comes like every two
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I think there's been a couple other times they've like messed around with like when the Dark Moon Fair came. Um there was one time like BG weekends they like messed around with. I think it was coming into TBC or coming into Wrath, one of the two maybe. But yeah, they've messed around with some of these timings before. So I'm a fan of it. Yeah, I mean, like let people get their fun trinkets and have them for the first raid. Sounds good to me.
There you go. I hope they don't change too much though. I do like Cata the way it was, like they don't I remember a lot of good stuff, and I remember a lot of good things about a lot of characters and the lore. I love Ragnaros. If they give him legs and he starts walking around, I'm gonna be upset. I'm gonna
That'd
be
be
upset.
crazy,
Yeah, there's no way they
dude.
do that.
Imagine if they like gave him chicken legs too, and then like everybody on the forums like complained about it, and then they gave him like really thick thighs after that.
Yo, I would like a nice thick thigh Fire Lord. I would like that, but
Um,
I'm not a huge fan of the
no
legs, Ragnaros.
spoilers, but you might be in luck in Firelands if you're into
Oh,
thick thighed fire lords.
perfect. I do remember directionally challenged bosses also that you have to guide with the damage. So
Yes, yes.
hitting their legs. So that'll be fun.
It's a very like leg based raid. Like
Yeah, is
it's the leg raid.
yeah, but then you're fighting a bunch of like arms and stuff for Deathwing too. So maybe this is leg raid, and then the next one's arm raid.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on to
I
something
never
here.
thought about that. Yeah, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we're on to
Firelands is
something
the
here.
leg raid. Huh.
Yeah,
I
and you got to
mean,
really hoof it around there too, right? You got to
cause
mount and
like,
everything.
like Balrog's got some good legs too. You got Shanox. That's the spider, right? I think
Yeah, a lot of
the
legs.
spider literally like tons of legs.
Spiders are known for their legs.
Yeah, like if there's one thing you know about spiders, it's legs. Like like yeah, I mean Firelands is just the leg raid.
Yeah,
But
I think someone corrected us in chat there. Shanox, I think, is the first boss, which
oh,
is like the
Shanox is the first
Naga guy.
boss. What is
I think it starts with a B.
oh Bethelak or something like
Yeah, there
that?
you go.
Is
There
that
you
the
go.
one? Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
I think it's something like Bethelak. In any case, Firelands is the leg raid. That's all you need to know. If you're
But
into
in
legs, you'll be into Firelands.
and in that raid you get your first legendary too, right?
True. True.
Yeah.
True.
All the casters are gonna be happy about that one.
100%.
All right. I think it wraps up the Cata news, other than we got some other Cata stuff, some more Cata stuff to go over, but the news itself for Cata.
Oh, we actually have a couple more things.
Oh,
I just saw. So Blizzard just had a cattle launch test. I can't really remember if they've done this. I think they've done this at some points before. But I guess it's a good thing, like so they can get a decent idea of like, you know, make sure everything's working correctly when they flip the switch tomorrow.
yeah. Historically, they've been pretty good recently. That the first classic launch was pretty rough. There has been some rough launches, but overall, I feel like the launches have been pretty smooth for the most part. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think they have been pretty solid. I'm just fully expecting it to be a good launch, but we'll see what happens.
Do you expect teleporters like they did for Wrath of Lich King instead of having to wait for
I'm
boats and
sure they
such?
got them ready to go, like the
Yeah,
Bashir
and then they'll
teleporter if they need to.
and then they'll just never nerf them, so no one ever takes the zeppelins and boats and such ever again. I like it.
Yeah, I actually can't even believe that like the Northrend teleporter is still there in Cata. Like
Yeah, don't say anything. I don't want them to nerf it. Don't
they
say
just
anything.
they just still have it there. It's
I
great.
love it. I love it.
Um, so another big change we got. Well, it's not really a change. So in Wrath they changed it so you could still get Gladiator, in 2v2 and 5v5 for Classic. But they're going back to the OG thing of you can't get it from 2v2 and 5v5 anymore for Cata. This is how it was back in the day. So it's just reverting back to how it was. Um, so yeah, 2v2, 5v5, those are just going to be for conquest points. You will be able to get the other titles though, if you're interested in those. Challenger, rival, duelist. You won't be a duelist, Ando. You can do
Yeah.
that in 2v2.
No, I've got some friends that are duelists, and
Uh
recently,
Bobby, yeah.
yeah, recently became gladiator. So he's now
Yeah,
a
grats to
he's
Bobby. Grats to
he's
Bobby.
now a post duelist. So
Post duelist.
uh,
So
but yeah, I'm glad because the 3v3 I feel like is probably the best skill expression and like enjoyable to
oh
watch at
definitely.
least. So
Yeah.
I think this is good to change it back to this and or revert it to this rather however you want to phrase it, right? I think this
Yeah.
is probably the best play though.
Yeah, it's the most competitive like format. So I
Especially because
think
it
it's
gets
good.
pretty wonky in 2v2s and 5v5s, right? People are just doing things that are just nutty.
Yeah.
5 boomkins or whatever.
So last bit of news we have, there were a few different Cata developer interviews. Um, we got a little bit of enlightenment on some things, got some clarification. They did say bad luck protection for archaeology might get added sometime after launch. It's a maybe. We don't know for sure that's going to happen. We did get a very emphatic no for looking for raid happening though. So LFR not going to be in Classic, confirmed, which I don't think that's too surprising. Like, nobody likes LFR, and it's more work for Blizzard to put it into the game. So, why would they go out of their way to put something in nobody wants? Makes
I'm with
perfect
them
sense.
there. I'm with them there.
The raids have the initial early nerfs, but they don't have the huge nerfs that came with Firelands. Talked about that a little bit earlier. But uh, when asked about this, they did say these raids were post nerf, but they definitely aren't like fully post nerf. They're just like the more minor fixes that happened early in like the life cycle of these raids. The nerves do not include like the huge health reductions, the giant mechanic damage reductions and stuff that came with Firelands. I would expect those to probably come with Firelands. They'll probably nerf the tier 11 raids as they did back then, just to make them, more accessible for people trying to get catch up gear, which I think is fine. Once it's not current content anymore, totally fine to just open it up, make it easier for alts and stuff.
Yeah, I enjoy that a lot. I think that's pretty good too. Yeah. So what you're saying is it's not nerfed, but it's like a light version of it, right? It's like the
Yeah.
balanced version.
Yeah. It's
What they
like,
wanted it to be, essentially.
yeah. Because you know how, like, when new retail raids come out, they're like constantly like tuning things. Like,
Yeah.
even as like echoes, like, you know, pulling these bosses, like things are getting HP reduced and things like that. Those are the kinds of changes that are in right now. Those like pretty early like fixes where like when it went live, they're like, this is a little harder than we meant it to be. And then they nerf it a little bit and get it to the like intended difficulty they wanted. We don't have the nerfs that were just, aimed at like gutting the difficulty of all these fights. Those will come with Firelands when the content's no longer current. Most likely. We don't know for sure, but that'd be my guess is like back in the day they would probably do that again.
It was like when Maru was like the best fight in Sunwell, and then all of a sudden, what the heck is this? That nerf.
Yep.
What is going on here with these ads and such? And these
Yep.
interviews, some of these interviews were done with some streamers and stuff too, right?
Yeah, so like Crix did one, Sky J did one, and I think his name was Ebonheart. I was that his name? I'm
Yeah, I think you're gonna
was
get in on the
wait,
next
was that
one.
the
You
name?
just got to do it.
Okay. Yeah, it was somebody I hadn't heard of. I haven't actually seen that interview, but I heard really good things about it. So I still need to watch that one, but people say he did a really good job. So yeah, maybe someday. All right. So they also said no plans for challenge mode or M plus, but there will likely be a Titan Rune dungeon type of thing happening. This is, I mean, pretty much what we expected, I think. So no surprise there. It is, I mean, it's a little sad, but I mean, 99% chance this was what was gonna happen. But um next classic expansion, we will get challenge modes for sure. So we got that to look forward to. And that might be part of why they don't want to do something like this now, just fully, preserve that mop hype.
I do hope they go even further though and make them the actual mythic pluses rather than just challenge modes, because after a while you were able to just like format them and like sell them to people, which is kind of like feels bad.
Yeah.
I think they should be challenge modes. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
shouldn't struggle.
Yeah, I could see them like, changing them in some way, maybe in future
Challenge mode
phases.
beta.
Yeah. Challenge mode protocol beta, exactly. Um yeah, I could see them like starting it as like the base challenge mode and then ramping it up a bit like each phase.
Yeah, for sure. And your stuff did scale down in those challenge modes, which is pretty unique
Hmm.
to it, right? But there still was like bis items that you could take in on your character based on like stats and stuff, or what got squished into what too, which is pretty interesting.
Hmm.
So I think it's definitely a unique system that has a place, right? Just wish they were a little bit harder,
Yeah.
but I do wish they were in. I do wish they were in Cata too. But I see your point of them, preserving that so that there's something amazing in the next expansion to look forward to.
Yeah, there were I know at least for like Vengeance, there were some nerfs that happened to Vengeance, but they made those nerfs not apply to challenge modes, just to keep it consistent with how it had been the whole expansion. So this time I would expect like those those nerfs to actually be like present in challenge modes,
Hmm.
since like we'll be playing on final patch and everything, and most of the expansion wouldn't have already happened with different versions of these abilities. So I'm guessing if they do this, anything that remains like pre-nerf only for challenge modes, I would guess they'll just toss that out, and any kind of mechanics that got nerfed will also apply to challenge modes. Yeah. So you got anything else before we send off, Hando?
Well, I think it's right that we do this. There was a question that we had in one of our earlier podcasts, and it was, "What is your favorite boss um, in Wrath of the Lich King?" I don't think we went over Classic or TBC. Do you want to just say what your favorite boss was in those two
Yeah.
expansions before we send off into the next expansion and find out what our favorite boss is there?
Yeah, sounds great. For me, I mean, for TBC, it's gotta be Illidan, right? Like the Illidan solo tank, it's probably the highlight of my time playing WoW. So yeah, for me, it's gotta be Illidan. Muru was really fun too. I loved Muru because we did like the solo humanoid tank. So I was doing the job that normally was done by like two tanks, and Prop Alley at that time had a little bit limited arsenal. So you had to kind of play around to your limitations at the time to like make that happen. Like Avengers Shield had a cast time. So like I would have to, like create some space so I could, throw an Avenger Shield, because if the mobs got close to me, I would just get so much pushback. Like I'd never be able to Avenger Shield. And then like utilizing things like blessing spam, because it would get you threat on the mobs on the other side of the room. Just like things like that. Those like weird mechanics, and kind of playing around it. Like it was, I mean, it was before Wrath, before like Prop Alley had it all. So just figuring out how to like kind of min max that like not as good version of Pally. That was a lot of fun, especially on that fight where being able to do that like allowed my guild to bring an extra DPS, which on Muru was super valuable, getting all that extra damage.
Especially if it was a warlock, right? I'd have to agree with
Yeah.
you. Illidan was iconic. It wasn't as game changing for me as it was for you, because I feel like it boosted your career in streaming quite a bit. But I will agree that Muru, because I played a protection paladin, was absolutely outstanding fight for us. I I mean that, and maybe like the waves in Hyjal, the first few waves in Hyjal where you had all that spell power gear on, that felt pretty amazing too. But boss wise, oh,
That is always
Muru,
fun on a prop ally.
only, yeah.
Prop
I
ally
didn't.
specifically, like lots of undead. That's like your bread and butter as a prop ally. And like I always thought it was fun, like just AoEing down tons of undead. That was great. Everybody else hated Hyjal though.
If it was all the Alliance camp, I would agree with you. I think it would be amazing where you can LOS everything super nicely.
Yeah,
But that little horde
the
turret
horde camp.
strategy
No,
was a little rough,
horde camp
running
was
around.
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
also,
the Alliance have it good, I guess. That's what it is.
I mean, there was also the thing where like the mobs would like teleport you to them if you got like too close to like some of the boxes on the ground and stuff. So like there were times where like we were trying to do like the line of sight thing, but oh, my foot slightly touched a box, so then I got teleported to I think it was like Asgalor Wave 6. That's the one where it's like 8 banshees and 8 necromancers. So you get teleported out to them, they all shadow bolt you at the same time and you're just insta dead. And yeah, like that, oh man, I hated the horde base for
I
sure,
think
but alliance
I think
base was nice.
yeah, I think we bubble pulled that and then did like a countdown for arcane bombs because that pull was like just nutty.
The arcane, that was okay, yeah, that was actually really cool. So like um for a bit my guild was like farming green dragons because they had like one of the higher drop chances to like drop the arcane bomb recipe. So and like we were on a small server, we were on Fairbanks at the time, which was like slowly dying. And so like nobody really had the arcane bomb recipe. And so we were like farming it by like going to kill like green dragons and stuff, which I thought was really cool. That like, farming these like world bosses was like suddenly relevant again. But ultimately somebody who didn't realize what they had put arcane bomb recipe up for like 50 gold on the auction house when it was worth like I think like 2000 gold at the time, something like that. Um, so then I just bought it for 50 gold. But for a brief time when we were like farming green dragons and there was like actually a purpose to it in TBC, it was kind of fun.
I love that. It's kind of like a resurgence project where we like the little things didn't seem like I don't know. It's just crazy some of the things you take for granted on these mega servers. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Research was awesome. Definitely. I mean, I don't want to say I hope some more servers die so we can do research again, but like if they happen to, it would be fun.
we're set up on Grovulos
Oh
if it does
god,
die.
dude. RIP Grub.
Um, but so how about your favorite classic boss?
Yeah, favorite classic boss. Man, I mean this go everything just like fell over like instantly. That was like the thing that was like kind of a bummer. Is like all the fights are over in like 20 seconds. Like in classic. I guess I could say like vanilla, like in the context of vanilla. Um I I liked Cthulhu just because it was like I mean back then it wasn't as easy, like because people did way less damage and everything. This time it was kind of a joke, like, you know, tentacles like instantly died and you're just kind of staying around waiting and stuff. But I mean back in the day when like I first got to Cthulhu, it was like so cool. Like I loved like the old god lore and everything, and um, I mean, so few people were like killing him back then. Like my original guild, I raided with for like half of vanilla. They got stuck on twin imps for. Actually, I don't think they ever killed twin imps, but I progged twin imps with them for like 3 months, and it was just a brick wall. They could not kill twin imps. So I ended up leaving that guild. I joined the guild I played with. I mean, basically the rest of my time playing WoW. And uh, like they had already killed twin imps, so I didn't get and they had killed Cthulhu, so I didn't get to do the prog on Cthulhu. But just I mean that was part of it for me too. Is like I had spent so many months wiping on twin imps over and over and over again, not getting to do Cthulhu. And then when I finally got to do it, it was like just so cool to like finally be there. And he dropped like, Death Sting, which was like such a cool dagger to get as a rogue back then. Played a rogue that whole time. I never got Death Sting, but it was one of those items where you like saw it on Alakazam or Thoughtbot, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe an item like that exists. Maybe I could get that one day. And yeah, just it's got to be Cthulhu for me because like just because of all the factors there.
It's a pretty good choice. I have two like honorable mentions in AQ40, and they're from a raid lead standpoint, which is the Scarum, where you just lose your world buffs if you get MC'd and killed.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty hilarious from that standpoint. And then we had a system in place because I ran GDQPs back then too, is where you'd find people and it would be like split amongst the people that turned and killed that person. So it'd be taken from their cut and then added to the person that got killed
Oh,
because they
okay.
lost their world buffs. So it was like,
Damn.
incentivizing better play. But I thought that was pretty hilarious. And then I think the other one is probably just like Fankris and how like that isn't even a boss,
Oh my god,
right?
I
Like
couldn't
he
believe
just
that. Like I remember progging that back in the day, and it was like it was, it lasted a few minutes, and I had to do my kidney shots on the worms because like they were definitely gonna live a long time, and like they were gonna enrage and everything. Like I was assigned to like kidney shot them, and uh like it just was such a different thing this time, where
yeah,
it
you
became
just
like
press
this
W.
15-second fight.
Yeah, you weren't even like you weren't even sad that someone pulled it early after the tunnel or anything. You just kind of walked. You're like, there he goes, he's dead.
Yeah, that's what I didn't really like about Classic, is just like the bosses are just like trash mobs, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
They're basically like the sandal guys in Old War. They take like 15 seconds and they're just kind of a slight nuisance.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, literally, like, I mean, those keeper guys in Oldor, like, they actually live longer than Fankris, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah, that's crazy.
The Twin M's fight was definitely longer, and I feel you on the progress there. I'm not going to put him as an honorable mention though, because I have bad memories of that fight. So, but my very favorite for just everything, like memes, the fact that sometimes we'd have to fully rebuff for it and stuff, and it was still like a struggle for some of the raid groups that I was in, is Saf. I think she was awesome. I think the fight was like simple enough and engaged in a lot of people, doing the correct thing. And then the memes that were created, at least from my guild, we got into a highlight reel because all of our ice blocks were on one side. So you saw the whole team like just shift over there. And then we ended up getting on another highlight reel like weeks after because one of our mages ice blocked and half of our raid like stood behind it thinking it
Oh,
was one
man.
of the things.
I probably saw that. Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
so many of
so
those videos where mages were just trolling.
yeah. The one where we ran across the room was just hilarious though, because like the odds of it all being on that side of the room was like very slim. And as we're running across, you hear one of our like officers or like team assistants or whatever he was titled at the time just yell, "Pop a pot!" Like it's like there's nothing you could have done. Like the entire raid, it felt like was just moving across and you just watched it like on the screen as a raid leader standpoint. I could see it. I could see it becoming a clip before it even was a clip. You know what I mean? Like I saw like half
Hmm.
the raid just running across the room, just booking it. If you had nitro boots, that would have been the time to use them. That would have been game
Oh,
changer for
yeah.
sure back then. But yeah, I think SAF was a lot of fun, a load of fun. The boss, lived long enough um, that it, I don't know, felt pretty good. And then I thought it was also interesting that Progress used their light of balloons and just ran it over with the Thaddeus buff. So I thought that was pretty interesting and like good use of game mechanics.
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot they even did that. Just to like immune the bomb.
Yeah, 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 yep. Well, they
Nice.
immune the stacking debuff or whatever it was, right, from Thaddeus.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And
yeah,
but then
yeah.
they got the
Okay.
buff, the damage increase or whatever it was,
Hmm.
something like that. Anyway, they just mowed over that boss because of that, and then they made it so you can't even bring that buff
Yeah.
into SAF anymore because it was like too OP. So, but I thought that was pretty cool. It like changed the meta. Like, oh, you had to do Thaddeus last because it brought this buff and stuff. I don't know. So I thought SAF was a good one. But yeah, those are my favorite bosses. That sounds like that was your favorite bosses. Let's keep going on these podcasts. It was a good one today, and hopefully in about a year's time or so, we'll give you guys the update on what our favorite Cataclysm boss was.
100%. I mean, just even after this phase, we can do a little, you know, what's our
Little
favorite phase
review.
one Cata boss?
That's true, yeah. But you know what? Let's go even deeper. What's our favorite heroic boss in Cata, dude? Let's just go deeper.
Favorite heroic boss? Yeah.
Like the heroic dungeon, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I already kind of know. I think it's got to be Vanessa Van Cleef for sure.
Oh,
Because I mean, dude, like you've done it recently,
yeah,
right? You can't
yeah.
remember. Yeah. So like you go through like all the nightmares, and like there's like fire on the ground. There's like the lightning, like spinning things people have to dodge, and man, every single time I've ever done it, like half the group dies on everything, and I'm like usually like soloing or like two manning it like by the end, and it's just man, it is just like hilarious to watch. Like people just like fall over like constantly, and like and then at the very end of it too, you have like she does like the suicide bomb thing at the end. So like anybody who doesn't know about the mechanic, they don't like know to run away from her as she's dying. They just instantly die. And it's hilarious every time. And
My favorite
a
is
good
the
priest can life grip them. Anybody who like did run out, good priests, we mentioned before, can life grip those people back in and get them killed.
my favorite thing is watching the instance or group chat too during those during those moments just light up
Yeah.
like what the heck
It's
happened there?
always just like WTF, lol. Like everybody everybody's just losing their minds.
That's a
And
good
in
choice.
RDF too, like man, some of those pugs you run like dead mines with, you will literally cycle through like 15 people throughout the run. I'm not sure what the difficulty I actually heard the difficulty is like really easy on the, you know, Cata classic version of this, but at least on P server when I was like writing this a bunch, like man, there were so many deadly mechanics in there, like people were just dropping like flies. It was fun.
But I enjoy that. Call the week.
Cole the
Call the
week.
week. Call the week.
There it is. All right, guys. So yeah, Cata Classic. At this point, it is launching in uh how many hours? I
12
think
and
I
a half.
said 13 before, but I was
Something like that.
completely
11
wrong.
and a half.
I'm bad at math. Yeah, it's coming out in 14 and a half hours.
There you go.
That's the correct time. It's coming out in 14 and a half hours. We're close. We're very, very
That's
close. We're almost there.
I can feel it. I can feel it. So
I
even
can
even
feel
if
it.
you're not a Kata enjoyer, you know, you're a Kata naysayer, just jump on the bandwagon, try it out, make your own opinion. Don't listen to these other naysayers that don't like it or whatever. I know we're gonna get a lot of people back. Um, form your own opinion.
We
Let's
already
get
got a
in
lot of
there.
people back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. I saw that.
anybody who's on the fence, I would say make a level one character, level up through these like revamped zones. They are like fun as hell. Like the quest revamps, the world revamps, it's so good. Just give it a
Quests at the beginning
chance.
of dungeons.
Yeah, just give it a chance. See if it's for you. I think a lot of people are gonna enjoy this, but give it a chance. Just give it a chance.
Give it a chance.
Give Cat a chance.
Give Kata a chance. And remember, don't skip leg or arm raid.
Do not skip leg rid. Leg rid should be good. All right. Um, yeah, good luck in Cat, everybody. I hope you guys find your Zinrocks. If you're doing any more digging, hope you get your Zinrocks. Hope you get your stabs. You know, whatever you're still trying to get. Good luck on launch. We are signing off. See you in the
That's it.
Cataclysm.
Good luck, guys.